there's something I've always wanted to ask you. I've interviewed you so many times, but I've never quite asked you about this because actually this person that wants a regular slot on my show is a big fan of weighing and measuring food. And I just feel that is just a counterintuitive thing. And I don't think it really helps people with weight loss or food addiction unless they're willing to do it forever. And I don't know if I've ever heard you speak on how you feel about that.
I think it's neurotic. And I think it's too unnatural. And it shows that people are not having attached themselves to instinctual eating yet. And you don't need to weigh and measure food, because if you're not losing weight, you can just modify the food you're eating, eat more lower calorie food like bigger salads, more eggplant, cauliflower, roasted peppers, mushrooms, and wild blueberries and blackberries. You could fill up your plate with more artichokes and asparagus. I mean, artichokes are like 25 calories and filling and high in protein in there. So it's so easy to modify your food intake to lose weight. Why would you want to weigh and measure thimble-sized portions of food for the rest of your life? And you can't even feel like you're satiated on thimble-sized portions of food. It's not a long-term strategy for success. It's better to get your body acclimated to be able to do it more naturally, not eating till you're full, visualizing what's on a plate, eating more rich, high fiber, high nutrient foods, and giving you that assortment of different types of food on the plate that satiate you long-term after the meal. When you mix together a little bit of green vegetables, of course, I'm also encouraging people to eat mushrooms and onions and peppers and things, but when you use green vegetables with or without mushrooms, onions, and peppers, and you have some low-calorie food like cauliflower, eggplant, mushrooms in there, and you have a small amount of beans in there, and you have maybe a small amount of grain or a starch in there like quinoa, amaranth, teff, oats, Pleiades squash, winter squash. You have some kind of, when you have this, and a little bit of nuts and seeds in there, and don't forget nuts and seeds are critically important because we're talking about longevity nutrition, and we absorb 20 times as much of the phytochemicals and longevity promoting nutrients when you have even a small amount of nuts and seeds with the meal, like a half an ounce. So we're saying here, so now I'm saying when you have a variety of foods at the meal, and we have this unique opportunity to have nutritional variety, it's so emotionally satiating. You get a good protein load. It digests slowly. It keeps you from wanting to eat through the whole for 4 or 5 hours. It's very long lasting. It's glycemically favorable. And people don't have to weigh and measure food. So we're trying to get people in touch with this instinctual feeling of hunger, and we're looking to get hungry for the next meal. We want to get hungry for the next meal, because when you get back in touch with hunger again, one of the symptoms of hunger is increased taste sensation. So a person came to my office, they visited me, and they brought me this soup. And they said, "Hey, Joel, I want you to try this soup. It's so delicious. You're going to love it." And I'll say, "Oh, thank you so much. Let me put it in my refrigerator, and I'll wait when I get hungry before dinner, I'll have it." But now it's 2:00 in the afternoon, and I just ate lunch at 12, and I'm not going to be hungry again until 5. And I don't want to eat before I'm hungry because, number one, you don't really have the full digestive capacity. These glands that secrete digestive enzymes squeeze out all their enzymes onto the meal, and they could take hours to refill again to be ready for the next meal. So for good digestion, we want to have the body finish digesting that meal completely and have some rest time for hunger to come back to then eat again. And it doesn't matter if you eat a little bit more, a little less at the meal, because if you eat a little bit more, a little less at the meal, you'll be hungry sooner, and you can just bring that other meal a little sooner. So the body already has built into it the instinctual drive to direct you to the right amount of calories if you listen to it and know how to interpret the signals. So we don't have to come up with weighing and measuring food. We can teach people how to read their body and how to get the most pleasure from eating, and how to adjust the meal to meet their own metabolic needs. If they're a person who's hard to lose weight, we can adjust that meal metabolically in that direction by increasing certain foods and decreasing others. And if they have more need for more calories because they're a more professional athlete, we can modify it in the other direction somewhat by giving, so we can adjust the meal for their own needs, and we can get people comfortably. And I'm always saying that you're a nutritarian when you're eating super healthfully and you're at your ideal weight. And that means your body fat's less than 15% for a male and less than 25% for a female. And by the way, my body fat's at 11%. So when I'm saying when a male should be less than 15%, it's certainly achievable if I'm 69 at 11% body fat. And the next thing, or you're a nutritarian, if you're overweight and you're losing at least 2 pounds a week, at least a kilogram a week, if you're overweight and you're not losing a kilogram a week or 2 pounds a week, then you're not on a nutritarian diet or nutritarian program. Because then you're over, if you're still eating healthfully, then you're eating too much of the wrong foods and too much food. So then you're doing something wrong, because we know when people are under my supervision, most of people lose 20 to 25 pounds the first month, and about 15 pounds the second month, and about 10 pounds thereafter per month. And that we know that if we're looking for the body's estrogen levels to go down, the inflammatory markers to go down, the insulin resistance to go down, the production of cytokines and lipokines, these inflammatory markers off the fat supply, the promotion of angiogenesis, all these markers that mark disease creation go away when a person's overweight. While they're still overweight, they're going away if they're losing at least 2 pounds a week. If they're overweight and they stop losing, you see these inflammatory markers go back up again. You see the estrogen production goes back up again. You see the insulin resistance go back up again. So when people regain weight after they lose weight, they're back to where they started from, or worse, because the regain of weight is really bad for promoting these aging and disease promoters. So like a person came to my retreat, let's say, for example, they lost 50 pounds, right? And they leave now and they go to Las Vegas buffets or on a cruise ship and they gain back 10 pounds. They lost 50, they gained back 10, they're 40 pounds down. I'm saying when they gain back the 10 pounds, they're at higher risk of having a heart attack. They're doing more damage to the body when compared to when they were 30 pounds heavier, because it's the direction of travel of your weight that makes the body goes into these inflammatory disease-creating states. So as long as you're dropping weight steadily and doing the right thing to steadily lose weight, you're going to immediately decrease your risk of having a heart attack, a stroke, or having some chronic disease happen to you, because your body is repairing a lot of the damage as you're losing weight. So to repeat that, you're a nutritarian when you're either eating right at your ideal rate, or you're eating right and losing at least 2 pounds a week if you're significantly overweight. If you're significantly overweight and you're not losing 2 pounds a week, you're doing something wrong.
Yeah. You know what I never understood about the weighing and measuring programs is, they're still eating oil, which I think if you eat oil, you better measure, but they limit like non-starchy greens to 7 ounces. That's crazy. And they give everybody the same program, regardless of their height, weight, age, activity.
Yeah. And even if they weren't, why should we limit greens? Because obviously greens are the only food that has no threshold effect on longevity studies. But do you know what? People don't know what I just said, but let me explain what I just said. Mushrooms are tremendously protective against cancer and promote longevity, but they have a threshold effect. The threshold effect means once you're eating a certain amount of mushrooms, once you're eating, let's say, a third to a half a cup of mushrooms, eating a cup or 2 cups isn't going to extend your lifespan more. You already had the half a cup. You already had a third of a cup. Eating some mushrooms each day is very important, but having a lot of mushrooms is not important. You just have to have some. Eating some flax seeds or chia seeds is super important. But once you have that tablespoon a day, eating 2 or 3 or 5 or 5 tablespoons isn't even more benefit, because you've already got the lignans and the benefits from that one. See, it's not going to be like a dose-dependent relationship where there's no threshold. We eat 5 cups of flax seeds a day. Well, maybe that'll help you more. That's ridiculous. It doesn't work that way. These foods have threshold effects. Once tomatoes have a threshold effect. Once you eat a certain amount of tomato sauce, you're getting the full benefit. But greens have no threshold effect. The studies on longevity, studies on centenarian, studies on green vegetables show that people move from 1 cup a day to 2 cups a day to 3 cups a day to 4 cups a day to 5 cups a day. They still have them enhancing longevity. We haven't found in the amount of people eating greens any threshold at which they've met the point where they've achieved the optimal longevity amount. It seems that the more greens you eat, the longer you live. So I'm saying eat 4 or 5 cups a day. But with tomatoes or onions or mushrooms or other important cancer-fighting and longevity-promoting foods, you don't have to eat that much of them. You just have to eat some of them. So greens have no threshold, and the more you eat, the better, and they should not be restricted.